Sam the Creative. Welcome to the Underground Society podcast.
It's my first podcast, so bear with me. Samara Creative, my LLC, it's circled around creativity, and I've been able to express myself and my opinions through that business.
And no one gives a shit. What do you think caused the rebellious side in you to come out?
My mom not being with my dad.
2 Christmases! Woo!
Yeah, I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I turned into a stoner in high school, so that was a big part of my life. My brain was just like in a whole different space. I was kind of a loner for a little while, working 2 jobs and just stressed out. I'm sitting next to a PS4, but it's not a PS5. So that kind of tells you where I'm at.
Let's think long-term plan. Let's think longevity. Let's think what is the rest of my life going to look like.
You know what? I'll be an airline pilot. I've always wanted to fly planes.
You're going to end up with a stick and a knapsack if you're not careful.
Dude, that's key, man, is if you're not happy, pack your bag and leave. And sometimes your bag might get smaller and smaller and smaller. But, dude, it's so important just to go wherever you're happy.
Sam the Creative. Welcome to the Underground Society podcast.
What's
How
up,
are you?
man? Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Before we get into our conversation today, I just wanted to kind of give people a quick introduction of kind of how we met. I didn't even know who you were before this year. I just met you when we went to Denver for John, aka Anubis' show, and you played Temple. And I've been wanting to get another photographer on for a while, and you seem like a really cool person with a cool story. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Of course, man. It's my first podcast, so bear with me.
Yeah, first one. Today we're obviously going to be talking about your photography stuff. How did you kind of get introduced to photography?
My family was big in the outdoors. My mom always had cameras. I learned how to use them pretty young that way, but it didn't really build a huge passion. I think after dropping out of college and traveling, the camera was really the only thing. It was probably my most valuable item, and it was not an expensive camera or anything. It was pretty cheap, and so I just used it for fun. It's the only thing I really had other than doing outdoor stuff. So I learned how to use it when I was super young, but 18, 19, I really pushed myself to become a little bit more professional at it.
What were you you obviously were shooting outdoor stuff. Were your parents photographers, or how did you you just picked it up and you're like, I like this?
My mom was our Boy Scout leader, so she used it for
okay.
memories and documentation, and we would have these court of honors where we got rewards and stuff, and we always had a PowerPoint that covered the past few months, and so I think that's where the camera came in play.
You said that she was your Boy Scout leader. I didn't even know that moms could do that.
Yeah, no, moms are the most ruthless usually.
I've never been a part of that, anything like Boy Scouts or anything. So I thought for some reason it was it only could be the dad.
No, there's a lot of very stern women in Boy Scouts, honestly. So
that's funny.
I hear more about women leaders than guy leaders, to be honest with you.
Really?
But we had more men overall leading, but all the women are the ones that had the capital positions. So scoutmaster, assisting scoutmaster, it was mostly the moms, and the moms planned everything. So
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of does make sense because moms are usually really good at planning stuff. I don't know. My mom's way better than my dad at planning stuff. So
yeah, in our friend group, the women plan everything too. So
yeah. Well, besides Boy Scouts, what did your kind of childhood look like?
A lot of outdoor stuff.
Okay.
So a lot of traveling with the Boy Scouts, a lot of hiking. When I got into hiking and boating and fishing and all that stuff, I started doing it on my own outside the Boy Scouts. So got introduced to a lot of that stuff, and then I played soccer and eventually moved into club soccer. And I turned into a stoner in high school. So that was a big part of my life. So
I didn't start smoking until after high school. I know a lot of people that did in high school. I was just my parents kept me on the straight and narrow until I was 18.
Yeah, I'm not super proud of it, but that I have to throw it in there because that's one thing that was big in high school with me and my friends was
absolutely
smoking. So
I mean, at least you had a good mixture of being outside and stuff too, though. It wasn't just smoking weed, playing video games all day.
Nah, yeah, no. I played video games a little bit. Like my brother, he was 3 years older than me, or still is, and he played like Super Smash Bros. And like Pokemon, and I grew up playing Pokemon and all that stuff, but it wasn't like my biggest thing. I got really into like Fallout and like a few games that I super nerded out on, but no, I've never been like a super avid gamer. But I mean, I'm sitting next to a PS4, but it's not a PS5. So that kind of tells you where I'm at with gaming. So
I don't even have a console, so I stopped gaming in like 8th grade, I want to say. I know, but I mean, even a lot of producers and people in our industry game a lot, and it's a huge thing still. I just when huge. My parents didn't allow me to play when I was young, so I never. By the time I actually was allowed to start, everyone had already had like 5-6 years of experience on me, and I just couldn't compete. So I was like, it's just pointless.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You mentioned that you were obviously talked about weed and stuff like that, and it seemed like you had also told me previously that you were a rebellious kid. What do you think caused like the rebellious side in you to come out?
Well, I moved down south, and the south is full of like it's not all necessarily a bad thing, but there's a lot of very like different rules down there. Like I wore uniforms to school, and like I had long hair when I moved down there, like surfer. Like I had beach blonde hair, and I was just treated like a kid that, like, I moved down there in 1st grade, and I was instantly treated like a kid that just had all these issues, and I wasn't the right kid, and I didn't steal or anything as a little kid, or like I didn't do anything bad, I'd say, but I was automatically, teachers would tell my mom that I need to be put on ADHD medicine, and I need to cut my hair, and I need to stop being so wild. So I think when I moved down there was a lot of compression, and I feel like that, on top of like just a little bit of a broken family, just my mom not being with my dad my whole childhood, just a little bit of all that. Pretty average, pretty normal for a United States teenager.
Yeah, every third person you talk to, oh yeah, my parents are divorced. Oh yeah, my parents are divorced. It's kind of sad. Like back when our parents were kids, it was like I remember my dad, like everyone, like his parents. I mean, my grandparents were still married. My grandpa passed away now, but all of that generation like stayed married, and then our parents' generation just for some reason couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like when someone tells me like, yeah, my parents were together, they stayed together until I was 18, and then they finally split. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like at least they like stayed together that long. So, but I didn't really care. I didn't really care growing up. Like I really didn't. Yeah. Like honestly, was more of a positive kid on it. I was like, oh, I get to go stay with my dad, and get presents and
2 Christmases. Woo!
Yeah, a whole different vibe. So yeah, my mom and dad, they, they're like, growing up, we were like lower middle class. Sometimes we were like lower class, but I was definitely blessed as a child, but not like some kids.
Spoiled.
Yeah, like we got like me and my brother would get one big present together, and we'd get like a Wii together. Yeah. And that's like pretty cool. That's good. That's awesome. It'd be like a year or two after the Wii came out, but we'd get it and we'd freak out about it. And so, I had a good life, man.
I remember one year my mom got me a Wii for Christmas, and that was like finally she started coming around to the whole video game idea. And same thing. It was for me and my stepsister. We had to like share it. So with the whole kind of rebellious side and like the childhood that you came from, did creating your photography business and beginning to produce it all, did that come from like the rebellious spirit that you had, or were your parents supportive in the fact of wherever you wanted to go with your life?
To be quite honest with you, there was a lot of factors that went into it. There was no action that happened or event that happened in my life that made me want to do something. I've always wanted to be creative.
Okay.
And photography was one of those things that I saw a future in. From the day I started getting into it, like while traveling, I was like, this is the next step. I'm going to keep having fun, traveling from all these different resorts, summer to winter, enjoying all these sports. And for the people listening, that was right after I dropped out of college. I dropped out of college within the first year. So it's something I was working up to, but I knew that I didn't want to rush it. And I was like dating this girl at the time in California. And we had been off and on. It was like my first like kind of toxic relationship. And I was working towards those things, and like any kind of relationship, any kind of guy, any kind of girl, they like to take up a lot of your time, and vice versa.
Why I'm not dating right now.
And at an early age, you're not really educated on that, so it's kind of like you react to it badly and so. And so I was trying to like, hey, not saying I was in the right or anything, but I was trying to like push her away a little bit so I could make some space for like my work. And like, I probably did it in a bad way, or like, I don't really know. Like,
you were young, man. You didn't know.
At that time, I was like, how do I divvy my time up between these two things?
Yeah.
But me and her ended up breaking up, a bunch of times, and that breakup really like pushed me forward into like, hey, you got to do this now. So like, you have time. Like, she's gone. You don't want her to be gone. So, you're like, I was hurting and I needed distraction. So like, there was a good like six to like 12 months that I like was just like it went from like nothing. It went from like one camera to like 4 cameras, and like a bunch of operating cash to get the business started all in like 12 months, because like my brain was just like in a whole different space. Like,
yeah, it's almost similar to like an artist, like the artist pain, right? Like a lot of a lot of people believe that like musicians or whatever have to go through something to create like brilliant music, and it's almost the similar idea. I went through a similar thing starting this podcast. I'm glad I didn't get into like drugs or alcohol or something negative. I'm glad I found a positive outlet, and I'm glad that you found a positive outlet as well.
No matter what, like anger, happiness, emotions, it's all tension. It's all the same tension, and all of them can build that tension. And where milestones come from, or like super downs, like alcoholism, like you're just saying, comes from the decision you make of where to exploit or like push that tension. So like you push that tension towards like your podcast, and I push that tension towards making my LLC. So
what was that process like, making your LLC?
What's up?
Is it? I'm actually thinking about that, or not even thinking. I'm going to be starting my own LLC. But what was that process like? Is it a difficult process that you went through, or how did you learn how to do that?
One thing in my career is I've never really had a mentor, so it's been pretty gnarly, but it teaches you a lot. And I went through LegalZoom actually to start my LLC.
Okay.
So it wasn't that bad. A lot of people, like, while I was going through the process, when you're starting your business, you're a business fanatic. You're talking about it all the time. Like, you start getting into like, it's just business takes over your mind when you first start getting into it. And you think everyone's a business owner, but they're not.
No.
And I went through LegalZoom, man, and like a lot of people were like, oh, that's not good. You shouldn't go through them. And like, honestly, man, I was 19 and I didn't have any clue about any of that stuff. And, they held my hand through it. And I only spent about $2,000, $3,000 altogether for like trademark, copyright. So like, that's a big check compared to like what you could do with it if you knew your own information. Like if you have your own personal lawyer or something, then by all means. But as someone that started their business, I do advise like, going through LegalZoom if you don't know anything, because you can handle the process. They give you like free mentorship, or like you can call anytime and ask questions, and you can really take advantage of a company like that, or take advantage of their product, if you just like put your mind to it. And I think, you shouldn't do them twice. Like, you should learn your stuff so you can start if you want to start a new LLC one day, like obviously learn from the process. And because you can just fill out paperwork, I'm pretty sure, and turn it in and get approved. So they're just doing all the paperwork for you and stuff, but it gets complicated. So it helps a lot. And that combined with TurboTax, I mean, obviously don't use TurboTax, but for your first, second year, like, I mean, you don't really have a choice, So I was out in California by myself, and like, my mom, she's been in like a doctor, she's not a doctor, but she does orthotics prosthetics. So it wasn't up her alley. It wasn't up my grandma and grandpa's alley. It wasn't up any of their alley. So like, you
Figure
know.
it out.
Yeah, figure it out, dude. So,
You mentioned you went to college and, now talking about the LC and stuff too. What'd you go to college for? Was it business?
oh no, this is gonna be a wrench, dude. I kind of had like, you know how I said I was like smoking in high school and stuff. I kind of
Yeah.
had like my senior and junior year was like super rebellious, dude, and like it, it really is a bunch of BS with like, my school and the principal at the time. They were like team anti-Sam in high school. You know how the college pressure, everyone wants pressuring you to go to college. You need to go to college, kid. You need to
Mm-hmm.
go to college. That's like super bad in the South. Like in the South, you're either going to technical school or you're going to
Oh,
college.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I knew I wanted to do something with a lot of adrenaline, and this is like, we're going back in time. So like, this isn't when I was thinking about cameras too much. And some of my friends were going to Louisiana Tech, and that was 45 minutes up the street from me. And my brother went there, and I was like, you know what? I'll be an airline pilot.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah, so I was just like, I'm gonna go to school to be an airline pilot. And it was just like a fluke, dude. And like, I've always wanted to fly planes. Like,
Me too, man.
I'm super big into that stuff, and I will one day.
I love
fly
flying.
drones now, but
Yeah.
I know it's super cool, bro. And this, but when I got there, it's just I rushed fraternity, and I was just doing the basic Southern boy like thing, and met a lot of really good friends. Wouldn't take it back for the world, but I did a lot of partying, and airline school was way too expensive. I missed some classes, and it's run by mostly military people, and they did not like that. They're not cool. Like at college, I kind of had the vibe. I was like, I can miss a class or two. Like, cool kids skip,
Yeah.
and
Not with learning how to fly a plane.
that was not cool with them. And they were down to keep me in, but they were not being nice. And yeah, I just dropped out within like 6 months because frat life was not for me, and staying there for another 4 years was not for me. I kind of wanted to return to my roots of, kayaking and rock climbing and some of the outdoor stuff.
So were you already planning on starting your photography business when you knew that they were like, okay, this path isn't turning out to be what I thought it was going to be? Were you already thinking like, okay, maybe I can lean into photography and try and make that a business? Or like, were you just like, nope, I'm done. Guess I'll figure it out eventually.
No, I've kind of had the habit, not now, but then I had a habit of anytime a stressful situation was there, I was not there. So when I went through all that stress and I came out, I was like, cool, I don't have to worry about stress for years. And so I did nothing that caused me stress. I basically, we used to go whitewater kayaking a lot in North Carolina. And I was like, I'll go get a summer job up there just for shits and giggles. And one of the guys from the fraternity, he dropped out too. He came and joined me, and then some other friends joined me. So we kind of became a band of misfits. It was pretty cool. And we were only there for about a year. Some of them stayed, like it was seasonal, so some of them went back next year, but I didn't. I kind of went through another midlife crisis, and it's probably not the right word, but it was like a crisis. Didn't know where I wanted to go after the whole kayaking experience, and or rafting and kayaking. And I moved down to Charleston, South Carolina, because my mom's current boyfriend, fiance, his son lives there. He was in the military, so I moved in with him, and I went and worked in the mall. And I was only there for about 4 months because I was like, yeah, this ain't me either. So one of my buddies.
College wasn't me. Working at the mall wasn't me. Damn it, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah, dude, that's key, man. Is if you're not happy, just pack your bag and leave. And sometimes your bag might get smaller and smaller and smaller. But dude, it's so important just to go wherever you're happy. But one of my friends,
you're going to end up with a stick and a knapsack if you're not careful.
No, dude, I'm doing. I have way more stuff than I've ever owned in my life right now. So that's not a
I was at your place.
Thing,
you have a nice place.
Thanks, man.
You have a really nice place. Yeah.
I've seen nicer, but thanks. But anyways, one of my friends that moved to North Carolina with me, he was a year younger than me, and he decided to skip the whole college thing, and he moved up there, and super proud of him. He kind of like got absorbed into the whole like travel resort life more than I did. And he was like, hey man, there's this really cool place called Mammoth Mountain. You should come work with me there. You know, you invited me here and I'll invite you there. So I was like, you know what? Hell yeah. And I went back to Louisiana for like 2 months because my brother was getting married. So I did all that. It was like a little intermission. And that's actually the last time I've lived in Louisiana since then. That was like 2019. No, 20. That was 28, early 2018. And that season, that winter season, I learned how to snowboard for the first time, and you know, a lot of adrenaline. It was nice, dude. It was awesome. But that's the prime time of where I was like, okay, I'm done with this minimum wage, you know, style life.
Yeah.
Like, I'm made for more. Like I was, you know, just that normal. You know, everyone has that feeling for themselves. Most people is like, you know, I'm destined for more.
Yeah, most people.
You know, and some people act on it, some people don't. And I started to go through like a lot of maturity phase. Like I started to mature. Not saying my friends aren't mature, but I started to like look at life a little bit more serious than they did. So I started battling like a lot of like, you know, shedding a lot of layers, and I was trying not to shed my friends, you know, that were doing the things that I was doing. And I was trying not to shame them. You know, it's like, I want to do this. It's going to take a lot of work, and I can't be having as much fun like we were doing. Like, dude, we're going up the mountains, like, you know, hammered, like doing all kinds of substances, like having just bombing double blacks, doing dumb stuff, man. Just is like, it wasn't a lifestyle that's going to last, you know, longer than 5 years, if that. So I just,
it's weird. It's weird when you hit that time in life you were just talking about, where you're like, okay, let's think long-term plan. Let's think longevity. Let's think what is the rest of my life going to look like? Like I'm getting out of the kid zone, and like this is into the rest of my life zone. So what am I going to do with it? Kind of what comes along with that. It's like, okay, I got to like cut out some shit and like be an adult now. And
I feel like everyone goes through that phase. Sometimes I think it's better. I think it's better if you do it early enough to where you choose to go through that phase. Sometimes people have to go through that phase unwillingly, and I've seen that before, and that's not always the best. So
not fun.
And when you go through it, you know, when you first become a business owner, like I wasn't a business owner then, but it's kind of the same thing as like when you're trying to like excel your life, you're trying to excel other people's life too. So like you kind of grow out of that, you know. So when you're going through those stepping stones to like just being that person you envision in your dreams and, you know, your daydreams, there's a lot of challenges with friends and family and people, and you really start to figure out who your real friends are and who they're not. And you know, people telling you like, you're not that person, man. What are you doing? You're like, you're crazy right now, so and so. So a lot of character development doing those things. So
were people, going back to the kind of photography, were your friends, I mean, obviously it seems like your parents are pretty supportive in whatever direction you wanted to take with your life, as long as you were doing something. But were your friends that you were hanging around and stuff at the time, when you started to get more serious, did you lose those friends, or did they kind of grow up with you, or kind of a blend of both?
There was a few falling outs for sure.
Okay. That's what I've experienced too. Like I almost have like, I mean, I have like my core friends that I've been friends with for a long time that'll be with me forever. But some of my friends that, you know, during that transition in my life, I don't talk to a lot of people that I used to hang out with. And for the better, I'm glad I don't. But I noticed that as I began to change, so did the people around me.
Yeah. The cool thing about that is, I mean, the waves are going to, you know, go no matter what. And some of them crash, some of them don't. And, you know, you let people stay in their own lane and you stay in your own lane. The good ones will come back. Yep. So,
for sure.
I can only think of like one friend really that like, I mean, close friend. Like we're only talking about. I'm only talking about close friends right now. Acquaintances, like, you know, those come in.
That's gonna come and go with it. Yeah.
But I only remember one close friend that like never will talk to ever again in my life. Yeah, he'll never talk to me. So like, that's like
it's mutual.
Like I said, like, you know, he's going that way. He'll never come back. So, but some of the other friends I've had, you know, like chapters in a book, like I said, the ones that, you know, the good ones will come back. Some of them left, or I left, and they came back in another chapter. So everyone from that section of my life, has came back in some sort of way. So
I had a question for your photography business again, but now that you have, is it just you that works under your LLC, or do you have other photographers that work alongside of you or with you, or that you're the boss of, or anything?
I am the only person under the
Okay,
LLC, so like I don't have any
got it.
employees or anything, but I have done like contracts. I have
Okay,
like hired people for like shoots. Um,
got it.
I'm just now reaching. Like I've done like big jobs before, but um, this past half year and this next year is like when my business is like really, doing some cool stuff that I
Yeah,
need people. So I've tried to scale my business before, and
yeah,
for anyone listening, that's like growing your business. And I've had to pull back. It's like, oh, I don't really need to hire a person for this. I just need to do it
mm,
myself. It's counterintuitive.
yeah,
So I feel like everyone does that. It's like, for your podcast, it's like I need to hire someone to edit it, and then
right.
you start spending $300
Yep,
a month on your podcast, and
yep,
you're negative. So
yep,
kind of like
yep.
that, So
It takes money to make money, and
yeah, you gotta go negative to
unfortunately,
go positive, man.
yeah.
Not all the
Which
time, but most of the time.
What are some of the milestones that you've achieved with your photography so far? Because I know you said you've worked some bigger contracts and stuff like that.
I mean, I've definitely like gone to shows. I write on an EDM page too. I write electronic dance music articles, and with my photography with them, I've shot some really cool artists. Some of those photos I can't publish under my name,
Yep.
so that's kind of weird. But whatever, I'm the only person in my life, so I got to experience. So who cares?
Yeah, yeah,
Anyone
yeah.
else gets to see it, and I have a whole entire print collection from the prettiest places in California, Colorado, Utah. So I've done a lot of like expeditions, like 2-3 day expeditions
Hmm.
with my backpacking camera. Those two milestones. So really cool artists, seeing really beautiful places from viewpoints that no one's really seen them before. I have them to keep the rest of my life. So those two things have been really big. Samara Creative, my LLC, it's not just a photography business. It's circled around creativity, and
Right.
I've been able to express myself and my opinions through that business, and kind of shine light on people's life, and show them the beauty behind like still images and so. And I've done a lot of education. I've learned more in the past 5-6 years than I have
In
ever
school.
learned. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say like high school because you learn a lot in school, but
Yeah.
yeah, just like by myself, like sitting
Right.
down and studying something. So education, meeting people, seeing the great outdoors, and I had this thing where I never could afford to like just live in LA. So I kind of lived in Santa Barbara a little bit because I had a friend that lived there. I didn't have a network down there, but I would drive there and the drive was 4 hours. I'd drive there like twice a week to like work, find jobs.
Dang.
So
Yeah.
the grind was definitely very, very real during that time.
Yeah.
So that traveling has been a huge blessing, and I've done a lot of work for my mom's company's nonprofits, Drala and Get Back Up Today, and their work. Some of the projects have been hard, but most of it's just been like capturing the moment. Some entry level stuff, and I've traveled all over the place. Like I traveled so much that I like became like a platinum member with American Airlines, and it's like
Oh, sick.
80,000 miles a year. So like
Damn.
I've been able to like go to New York, like Miami, like all over Texas, Oregon, different parts of California. I got to go to TwitchCon for photography. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I've met all kinds of people traveling. Like my
With
Go
all your
ahead.
traveling, what do you like most about Colorado? Because obviously that's where you live now. What was the reason for you moving there?
Small businesses don't really have it that good in California, for many reasons.
No, they do not.
Yeah, people can do their own research on that. So that was one thing, and I was in California for almost 5 years, and like I was all over that state, and I met a really good group of friends at Electric Forest, and they've done so much for me, and they like really showed me like what real friends should be, you know. And
They're from Colorado.
they're all from Albuquerque actually, but
Okay.
most of them live in Denver now. So
Got it.
I had a really good network of friends here, and I was kind of tired of not doing that because people move in California and then move out. Like I had so many friends move there and then move away, like before I left, you know. So like 1 year, 2 years. So I just got tired of like the every man for himself vibe of California. Politics aren't super popular here, so that's
no one gives a shit.
yeah, no one really cares. I mean, they care enough, but they don't really care. And there was a lot of business that I saw here, and just overall network. And you know, it's Denver, so I can fly to anywhere in the United States for about the same price. So just good for my business overall. We'll see next year. Maybe we'll have another podcast in a year and see where it went. Music came in when I said that a lot of those friends, they started like when I started like, you know, picking up different path in life. A lot of these friends kind of like dipped out because they're doing their own thing, you know, mad respect for them. You know, you keep doing that, I keep doing this. And like they were just still enjoying like, you know, the riffraff of like snowboarding and skiing and just living a great life, man. You know, turn up. And so I was kind of a loner for a little while, and we were working 2 jobs and just like stressed out, kind of had a lot of emotions built up, a lot of self-pity, and just needed an outlet, man. And I met Seated Vision, and his name's Sean. Super good guy, super down to earth. Knows a lot about crystals and just super good guy, man. And he was there for me. And there was a couple that lived with him. I met them a bunch too. And I kind of built relationships. They lived together, but I kind of built relationships with them differently by myself before I moved in with them. And so I kind of found like a new home of friends. And so, you know, you become the people you hang out with, and to a certain extent, and proximity or whatever. And Sean was, dude, if you go listen to his stuff, you can tell that he's like, you know, he does it like almost every day, or like it sounds like he does it every day. Super talented. Like, you know, his music entrances you into like a whole nother world. The sound design is like so organic and clean. And I was just mesmerized at this dude's production and just seeing it in person, because I never grew up around people. I didn't even know what Ableton was, but I had been listening to dance music since I was like 7, you know, or whenever Kygo hit SoundCloud, you know, or Old
Dude,
Ghastly.
That was a while ago. Oh my God.
So like that remix, that Kygo remix of that Lord of the Rings song. Like,
holy shit.
I actually found a podcaster though that played it during a podcast, and so like he cut it out and he uploaded it on Spotify. And so it's on Spotify. You can listen to it. And I'll send it to you. But that's the only place I've found it. And so I was just super fascinated, man. And I was already buying a computer for my business. I like took out a huge credit card and bought this really nice MacBook. And like I had all this editing software that I've been using on my super old MacBook for a long time, and I kind of limited my capabilities of learning Premiere and like Adobe and all these other editing things. And he showed me Ableton, and that was when Ableton had like, it wasn't as expensive as it is now. I think the standard was like $300 or something. And so I got the standard and like, I mean, I was making the worst beats ever, dude, but like the amount of motion and like self-pity and like just that, you know, what we're talking about, tension, just released onto Ableton. And learning to produce music kind of hindered my photo and video for sure. Like if I took all that energy and put it towards photo and video, I'd probably be like way farther than I am now. But
that's okay. So I think it's okay for people to be interested in different creative fields,
different hobbies,
exercise. So it's a healthier route, almost in my opinion, because then you're creating yourself into more of a well balanced creative than just like a specific thing. Yes, you might be further ahead, but I think it's better long term for your mental to be able to do it and exercise other things.
Yeah, for sure. And this is when COVID was like, I started my business like 2 weeks before COVID.
Oh shit.
So I was working under the table and stuff, but
Yeah.
not anywhere close to like taxable money. So I had someone to bounce off of. Like we were just stuck in this like it was like the couple, their parents owned this Airbnb in Bishop, the town shut down Airbnbs. So they had an extra apartment that needed to be moved into. So I moved into it. I only had to pay $900, which is awesome in California. I made like a creek in the backyard. I had like my hammock. It was just zen,
Sick.
bro. It was super beautiful. So like I could produce music all day and then I could bounce it off of, Sean. And at a certain point, I kind of learned that I was like, dude, I have to like stop asking and just produce. I just need to produce mad songs and just learn.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, and kind of been doing that ever since. It kind of became like almost an addiction. So
Yeah. Where's the balance now that you have since that experience of learning how to produce? And obviously, I've heard your music. I think you are getting really good at producing. Your music is great.
Thanks, man.
But then what's the balance, and how have you found balance between your career of a photographer and also your still, I guess, hobby, but something that you really have a passion in, which is producing music? Where's the balance there for you?
Books, man.
Books.
Yeah, and dude, that's a whole subject in its own, dude. I'll tap into it a little bit right now, but
Yeah.
Burnout and staying on the road, like your road, is one of the hardest things in life, and it takes constant education on yourself and the things you're around. Like photography, I'd burn out so much, and like with music, I would just become so demotivated by the brick walls I'd hit.
Forever student.
Yeah, forever student, man. People just don't realize that. And it's like forever student, keep learning new things, and if there's nothing else to learn, innovate.
Yeah.
So, and it's not as easy as I make it sound. Like it's hard. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
Like you can read one book and learn a lesson, and you won't apply it. You got to keep reading and keep learning. So, podcast, nonfiction books, learning to have fun, work time, playtime separation is very important, and I've had to learn all those on my own.
What have been some of your books that have really made an impact in your life that you've read?
There's a lot, man. I'm planning on doing some sort of like blog on my website that kind of gets into some of the books. I have a few books right in front of me, like this one I'm reading right now, Story or Die.
Oh.
It's by Lisa Crone. It just talks about applying story to like your creative stuff. So like,
dude, story makes such a big difference, especially if you're trying to grow or whatever. Big. That's what people latch onto, and story is super key.
These are some of my recent favorites I read this year. This one's called Deep Work. A lot of people have read this for college.
I've heard of that. Yep.
Yeah, that one's a super basic one. And some of these are going to be a lot of like very like non-fiction-y, but I do read other stuff.
Honestly, that's mainly what I read. So
yeah. So Get It Done. This Sweet. One is really good. I try to switch between like women writers and men writers.
Mm-hmm. That's smart actually, because they do have different like almost outlooks on their writing, like the way they tell their stories.
A lot of the women writing books now had a lot more challenges growing up than men do. And during that time, like most of the nonfiction writers right now are like between the ages of like 35 and like 65, older too, but that's where they range mostly. And so in a lot of those women, man, they're very powerful people. So I try to switch. This is the last one I'll show you. I read this one 2 years ago. It's called Being You by Neil Seth. It took me a while to read this one because it's like super like just sciencey. But it was really cool to kind of learn the walls of consciousness.
Got it.
Like that sounds super like whoa, but it really helps like you solve the issues that you have internally. It's like anxiety is a good thing, but it's also the worst thing, and you just have to be able to tell what's real and what's not real, and what thoughts should be acted on, what thoughts should be deleted.
I think not a lot of people do, or not enough people, I should say, do work on themselves and read, nonfiction books and like figure out why they are the way they are. I mean, or go to therapy or anything like that. Like more people need to set time
Yeah.
apart to work on themselves, especially if you're like you and I, where we have divorced parents, we have things that have happened to us. For you've had your rebellious side, and all the things that we've gone through in life. Life isn't easy, and a lot of people, most people, have some form of baggage, some form of unhealed trauma that they don't. A lot of people don't even know how to address. So I think that's awesome that you've read books and you've put yourself in the position to want to become a better person and pursue after your dreams. Because I think without healing and without doing the deep work on yourself, it really makes it really challenging to become successful in something that you're really passionate about.
Yeah. No, 100%. And like passion's a lot like motivation, man. It's not always gonna be.
No, definitely.
Yeah, passion's definitely something you have to like. That brings us back to always, for example, I learned triple exposure, like how to really like pinpoint triple exposure shots, in photography the other day. And dude, I felt like my passion muscle pitch back up, and I'm like, it's like a friend, that comes and goes. It's like, oh, hey, hello, old friend, I'm glad you're here, man. Life is great again. So it's the same thing with motivation, man. And yeah, it's just key to keep learning. And books isn't the only way to learn. You can learn many ways. Like even TV shows nowadays, like I watch TV shows with my girlfriend, man. I'm like, dude, that's some really good advice.
Yeah.
So
it's Dylan Francis right now. Do you know Icon Collective in LA, right?
Yeah. I did a bunch of work for those. That's actually where I learned most of my music education.
Oh, sick. Dylan Francis, obviously, you would think he doesn't need education. He's top of his game. He's, millions of records and, listened, and, he's a huge, Dylan Francis project is huge.
Yeah.
But even he, I guess he didn't, a lot of the engineering side and stuff, he would always, hire someone to do his mixing and mastering. And, a lot of people do that. But he actually wanted to take the next step and teach himself and, learn more about doing that himself. And so he just went back to Icon Collective just to take engineering classes and to work with an instructor like one-on-one, like a couple times a week. But I was like, dude, even people like as big as him, like,
yeah,
keep educating yourself. Yeah.
I went to Point Blank Music School recently and finished my mixing and mastering classes. Me and my mastering teacher didn't really get along, so I don't think I passed that class. I haven't heard back from them. They didn't even give, because they made me resubmit an assignment, and I resubmitted it and they haven't reached back out to me. But I don't really care if I passed or not, because
you learned.
I learned, and I learned what not to do. Like some of the stuff that they taught in the mastering portion was pretty anti-productive towards electronic music, and it would be nice to have my songs sound perfect, but they're not perfect, and that's what almost makes them perfect in my head.
Is what makes it art.
Yeah, and like
art's not supposed to be perfect.
The reason why people mix and master, like get other people to mix and master their music, it's obviously like an education thing, but it's also 2 ears.
Yeah,
2 pairs of ears can hear the problems. So that's why I would want someone to mix and master my music, but I just don't have the money for that, and like I've already spent so much money on plugins and Ableton and stuff like that. So like until
it's
like
expensive,
my songs
man.
are just like until my songs are just like banging, dude. Like if I wrote a whole entire album in this next year and was ready to release it 2024, I would debate on doing a whole album master, because you can start saving a lot of money that way. But if you're just like releasing singles, man, and you're like paying people to like mix and master it, unless you just got the hookup, you're dropping like $300. Like
per song.
I would ask someone else, but I'm pretty sure that's like the normal rate for like a mix and master, and it's like good. So I know I've seen some people like, I'll master your song for $80, and then you see all those memes on the internet, and it's like a mastering guy just turning the volume up.
Yeah, it's not the way to do it.
But AU5.
Yeah, of course.
So AU5 and this guy named Wyatt Troy. I can't remember Wyatt Troy's DJ name. He has a family, and from what I learned, he like kind of pulled back from the music industry and like wants to be more at home and start a business. So they started something called DAW Nation. But I've learned a lot of what I know from those guys, man. They feature guys onto the website all the time. They got all these different classes. AU5 has a school of bass, and I got
Cool.
it. I got it like right when it like not right when it came out, but really soon after it came out. And it's gone up in price since then. I think it's like 600 some. I don't know. I don't want to say an exact number, but it's hundreds of dollars. And dude, it's so worth it, man. You learn like bass jamming, like creating all those crazy sounds and like your own sound design. And it kind of shows you what to study, like what subjects to study in order to like really make your own stuff. And I've learned, so Icon Collective and the School of Bass on the internet.
Places.
I think it's a .net website, but it's .nation, and super great. They have classes that are only like $50 because they're like walkthroughs. Like walk through the songs, man, and it's like it's so like dry, you know. Like what I mean by dry is just like here it is, like this is the process, and like I think that's like so like boom. So I've taken classes from
education. I feel like sometimes education almost needs to be drier. Like I don't know, even with music, like it needs to be like. Here's how you 1 + 2 = 3. Like,
yeah, it's almost like a doctor going through 8 years of school and then like learning everything on his first day, you know.
Yeah.
And then I've taken classes from Ray Volpe before Laserbeam, and I've taken classes from Kovacs, taken classes from Kygo. So Kygo wasn't one-on-one, but like Ray Volpe was one-on-one and Kovacs was one-on-one. And then I've taken classes from some smaller DJs, but those are like the two like most popular one-on-ones I've done. So Ray Volpe taught me a lot about phrasing, like dubstep, and he's like the phrasing king, especially with Laserbeam. Like,
yes,
this is the most craziest phrase ever. It works. So
bring out the lasers. I had a couple more questions. We are getting close to time, but with education and building your business and stuff like that, what have you learned to really like? I know with any business in the early days, it's probably going to take a little while to get started and catch momentum and stuff like that. And it's been a few years for you now. What was the biggest growth catalyst for you to, finding success in your business?
Just sticking to it. Like if you fail, get back up. Like learn from your mistakes and just don't give up. Like everyone's going to fail. Everyone's going to topple. Everyone's going to go negative.
Even when you get setback. Yeah. Even when you go negative. Yeah.
I would say that's key, man. Cause like no matter what, before you make a decision, you're pressured with that decision of like, do I stop or do I keep going? And just ignore social media. Completely ignore social media. Like,
yeah, dude.
Like those people, some of them did make it from one little hit, but like, don't think about how they got there. Don't think about how their parents are rich. That's been a super big downfall for me. Is like in videographer business is like a lot of these guys are given their equipment, like they're just like, they just like, here's $100,000, go travel the world, go take pictures, like go enjoy yourself, and like that's been like envy has been a huge downfall of mine, and it's been something I've really had to work on. So I say completely avoid that and completely avoid comparing yourself to others, and always remember like let's say you wake up and you don't have a passion for your business anymore, or a passion for your hobby, or a passion to like go make it on your own. Just remember why you did it in the first place. And just like any intrusive thought, just the little bubble, what are similars, what are negatives, what are positives, like really do that and be like, okay, well, passion's not here today, but I know why I'm doing it, so I'm gonna do it. So just really break down your decisions before you make them.
And knowing, with setbacks and stuff, just one last thing I wanted to kind of add on to this, but whether you're religious or not, I'm a Christian, but whether you are or not, God, the universe, whatever it may be, something that may feel like a setback now, in 10, 15 years from now, if you look back at it, it's going to be, oh, that wasn't a setback. That was teaching me this lesson so that I could get here. I feel like every, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, I think has a plan. And no matter what happens, even if you are getting pushed back right now, it's only to help you succeed and get further in life. So keep going, like you said.
Yeah, and karma's also real. There's been some things that happened to me, and I probably thought in my head, like my truck got broken into like 3 months ago, and I was like, honestly, that's probably a few accumulative things that I've done all together, but I probably deserve that. So he's fine.
There's also that too. Yeah.
So everything happens for a reason, for sure.
Where can listeners find you? And are you taking bookings for photography for artists and stuff?
Yeah, in the Denver area, and I work within the United States, with travel included. So
Yeah, yeah.
my
Excellent.
website is samaracreative.net, SAMARA creative. You can find me on Instagram under the same name. My personal Instagram, where I talk about all my other creative endeavors, is sam.the.creative. And then my music is dubstep, future bass, experimental bass. You can find me on all streaming platforms under the name My Anime, M-I, Anime, A-N-I-M-E. So,
Awesome.
thank you for letting me do that.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. Final question I ask this at the end of every single interview. There's one piece of advice you could tell yourself when you first started your photography business. What would it be?
Never make up an excuse not to build your passion. I feel like I made a lot of, with photography strictly, I made a lot of excuses of why I shouldn't go out and shoot. And it definitely bit me in the butt later on. So never make an excuse that is going to hurt your path or goals, because excuses only hurt you. They don't hurt anyone else. They might defend you against someone else, but they're only hurting you. So suck it up. Be nice to yourself. I was gonna say don't be a bitch, but I felt like that was like too mean to like say to yourself. And
nah, don't be a bitch. Everyone listening, stop being a bitch.